Wikipedia wik-ih-PEE-dee-ə or wik-ih is a multilingual free online encyclopedia written and maintained by a community of volunteers through open collaboration in a wiki-based editing system. Its editors are known as Wikipedians. Wikipedia is the largest and most read reference work in history. It is consistently one of the 10 most popular websites ranked by SimilarWeb and formerly Alexa. As of 2022, Wikipedia was ranked the 7th most popular site. It is hosted by the Wikimedia Foundation, an American non-profit organization funded mainly through donations. On January 15, 2001, Jimmy Wales and Larry Sanger launched Wikipedia. Sanger coined its name as a blend of wiki and encyclopedia. Wales was influenced by the spontaneous order ideas associated with Friedrich Hayek and the Austrian School of Economics after being exposed to these ideas by Austrian economist and Mises Institute senior fellow Mark Thornton. Initially available only in English, versions in other languages were quickly developed. Its combined editions comprise more than 59 million articles, attracting around 2 billion unique device visits per month and more than 17 million edits per month as of November 2020. In 2006, Time magazine stated that the policy of allowing anyone to edit had made Wikipedia the biggest encyclopedia in the world. Wikipedia has received praise for its enablement of the democratization of knowledge, extent of coverage, unique structure, culture, and reduced degree of commercial bias, but criticism for exhibiting systemic bias, particularly gender bias against women and alleged ideological bias. The reliability of Wikipedia was frequently criticized in the 2000s, but has improved over time, as Wikipedia has been generally praised in the late 2010s and early 2020s. The website's coverage of controversial topics such as American politics and major events like the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russian invasion of Ukraine has received substantial media attention. It has been censored by world governments, ranging from specific pages to the entire site. In April 2018, Facebook and YouTube announced that they would help users detect fake news by suggesting fact-checking links to related Wikipedia articles. Articles on breaking news are often accessed as a source of frequently updated information about those events. Etymology. The word animal comes from the Latin animalis, meaning having breath, having soul or a living being. The biological definition includes all members of the kingdom Animalia. In colloquial usage, the term animal is often used to refer only to non-human animals. The term metazoa is from ancient Greek mu epsilon tau alpha and zeta. Characteristics. Animals have several characteristics that set them apart from other living things. Animals are eukaryotic and multicellular. Unlike plants and algae, which produce their own nutrients, animals are heterotrophic, feeding on organic material and digesting it internally. With very few exceptions, animals respire aerobically. All animals are motile during at least part of their life cycle, but some animals, such as sponges, corals, mussels, and barnacles, later become sessile. The blastula is a stage in embryonic development that is unique to animals, allowing cells to be differentiated into specialized tissues and organs. Structure. All animals are composed of cells, surrounded by a characteristic extracellular matrix composed of collagen and elastic glycoproteins. During development, the animal extracellular matrix forms a relatively flexible framework upon which cells can move about and be reorganized, making the formation of complex structures possible. This may be calcified, forming structures such as shells, bones, and spicules. In contrast, the cells of other multicellular organisms are held in place by cell walls, and so develop by progressive growth. Animal cells uniquely possess the cell junctions called tight junctions, gap junctions, and desmosomes. With few exceptions in particular, the sponges and placosoans animal bodies are differentiated into tissues. These include muscles, which enable locomotion, and nerve tissues, which transmit signals and coordinate the body. Typically, there is also an internal digestive chamber with either one opening or two openings. Reproduction and development. Nearly all animals make use of some form of sexual reproduction. They produce haploid gametes by meiosis. The smaller, motile gametes are spermatozoa and the larger, non-motile gametes are ova. These fuse to form zygotes, which develop via mitosis into a hollow sphere, called a blastula. In sponges, blastula larvae swim to a new location, attach to the seabed, and develop into a new sponge. In most other groups, the blastula undergoes more complicated rearrangement. It first invaginates to form a gastrula with a digestive chamber and two separate germ layers, an external ectoderm and an internal endoderm. In most cases, a third germ layer, the mesoderm, also develops between them. These germ layers then differentiate to form tissues and organs. Repeated instances of mating with a close relative during sexual reproduction generally leads to inbreeding depression within a population due to the increased prevalence of harmful recessive traits. Animals have evolved numerous mechanisms for avoiding close inbreeding. Some animals are capable of asexual reproduction, which often results in a genetic clone of the parent. This may take place through fragmentation, budding, such as in Hydra and other cnidarians, or parthenogenesis, where fertile eggs are produced without mating, such as in aphids. Ecology. Animals are categorized into ecological groups depending on how they obtain or consume organic material, including carnivores, herbivores, omnivores, detritivores, and parasites. Interactions between animals form complex food webs. In carnivorous or omnivorous species, predation is a consumer-resource interaction where a predator feeds on another organism. Selective pressures imposed on one another lead to an evolutionary arms race between predator and prey, resulting in various anti-predator adaptations. Almost all multicellular predators are animals. Some consumers use multiple methods. For example, in parasitoid wasps, the larvae feed on the host's living tissues, killing them in the process, but the adults primarily consume nectar from flowers. Other animals may have very specific feeding behaviors, such as hawksbill sea turtles primarily eating sponges. Most animals rely on the biomass and energy produced by plants through photosynthesis. Herbivores eat plant material directly, while carnivores, and other animals on higher trophic levels typically acquire it indirectly by eating other animals. Animals oxidize carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and other biomolecules, which allows the animal to grow and to sustain biological processes such as locomotion. Animals living close to hydrothermal vents and cold seeps on the dark sea floor consume organic matter of archaea and bacteria produced in these locations through chemosynthesis. Animals originally evolved in the sea. Lineages of arthropods colonized land around the same time as land plants, probably between 510 and 471 million years ago during the late Cambrian or early Ordovician. Vertebrates such as the lobe-finned fish Tiktaalik started to move on to land in the late Devonian, about 375 million years ago. Animals occupy virtually all of Earth's habitats and microhabitats, including salt water, hydrothermal vents, fresh water, hot springs, swamps, forests, pastures, deserts, air, and the interiors of animals, plants, fungi, and rocks. Animals are however not particularly heat tolerant. Very few of them can survive at constant temperatures above 50 degrees Celsius. Only very few species of animals inhabit the most extreme cold deserts of continental Antarctica. Diversity. Size. The blue whale is the largest animal that has ever lived, weighing up to 190 tons and measuring up to 33.6 meters long. The largest extant terrestrial animal is the African bush elephant, weighing up to 12.25 tons and measuring up to 10.67 meters long. The largest terrestrial animals that ever lived were titanosaur sauropod dinosaurs such as Argentinosaurus, which may have weighed as much as 73 tons. Several animals are microscopic. Some myxozoa never grow larger than 20 m, and one of the smallest species is no more than 8.5 m when fully grown. Numbers and habitats. The following table lists estimated numbers of described extant species for the animal groups with the largest numbers of species, along with their principal habitats, and free-living or parasitic ways of life. Species estimates shown here are based on numbers described scientifically. Much larger estimates have been calculated based on various means of prediction, and these can vary wildly. For instance, around 25,000-27,000 species of nematodes have been described, while published estimates of the total number of nematode species include 10,000-20,000, 500,000, 10 million, and 100 million. Using patterns within the taxonomic hierarchy, the total number of animal species including those not yet described was calculated to be about 7.77 million in 2011. Evolutionary origin. Animals are found as long ago as the Ediacaran biota, towards the end of the Precambrian, and possibly somewhat earlier. It had long been doubted whether these life forms included animals, but the discovery of the animal lipid cholesterol in fossils of Dickinsonia establishes their nature. Animals are thought to have originated under low oxygen conditions, suggesting that they were capable of living entirely by anaerobic respiration, but as they became specialized for aerobic metabolism they became fully dependent on oxygen in their environments. Many animal phyla first appear in the fossil record during the Cambrian explosion, starting about 539 million years ago, in beds such as the Burgess Shale. Extant phyla in these rocks include mollusks, brachiopods, onychophorans, tardigrades, arthropods, echinoderms, and hemichordates, along with numerous now extinct forms such as the predatory Anomalocaris. The apparent suddenness of the event may however be an artifact of the fossil record, rather than showing that all these animals appeared simultaneously. That view is supported by the discovery of Aura illumina Attenborough, the earliest known Ediacaran crown group cnidarian from Charnwood Forest, England. It is thought to be one of the earliest predators, catching small prey with its nematocysts as modern cnidarians do. Some paleontologists have suggested that animals appeared much earlier than the Cambrian explosion, possibly as early as 1 billion years ago. Early fossils that might represent animals appear for example in the 665-million-year-old rocks of the Trizona Formation of South Australia. These fossils are interpreted as most probably being early sponges. Trace fossils such as tracks and burrows found in the Tonian period may indicate the presence of triploblastic worm-like animals, roughly as large and complex as earthworms. However, similar tracks are produced today by the giant single-celled protist Gromius ferica, so the Tonian trace fossils may not indicate early animal evolution. Around the same time, the layered mats of microorganisms called stromatolites decreased in diversity, perhaps due to grazing by newly evolved animals. Objects such as sediment-filled tubes that resemble trace fossils of the burrows of worm-like animals have been found in 1.2 Q rocks in North America, in 1.5 Q rocks in Australia and North America, and in 1.7 Q rocks in Australia. Their interpretation as having an animal origin is disputed, as they might be water escape or other structures. Phylogeny. Animals are monophyletic, meaning they are derived from a common ancestor. Animals are sister to the Choanoflagellata, with which they form the Choanozoa. The most basal animals, the Porifera, Ctenophora, Cnidaria, and Placoso, have body plans that lack bilateral symmetry. Their relationships are still disputed. The sister group to all other animals could be the Porifera or the Ctenophora, both of which lack Hox genes, important in body plan development. These genes are found in the Placoso and the higher animals, the Bilateria. 6,331 groups of genes common to all living animals have been identified. These may have arisen from a single common ancestor that lived 650 million years ago in the Precambrian. 25 of these are novel core gene groups, found only in animals. Of those, 8 are for essential components of the WNT and TGF-beta signaling pathways, which may have enabled animals to become multicellular by providing a pattern for the body's system of axes, and another 7 are for transcription factors including homeodomain proteins involved in the control of development. The phylogenetic tree indicates approximately how many millions of years ago the lineages split. Non-bilateria. Several animal phyla lack bilateral symmetry. Among these, the sponges probably diverged first, representing the oldest animal phylum. Sponges lack the complex organization found in most other animal phyla. Their cells are differentiated, but in most cases not organized into distinct tissues. They typically feed by drawing in water through pores. The Ctenophora and Cnidaria are radially symmetric and have digestive chambers with a single opening, which serves as both mouth and anus. They are sometimes placed together in the group Coelenterata because of common traits, not because of close relationships. Animals in both phyla have distinct tissues, but these are not organized into organs. They are diploblastic, having only 2 main germ layers, ectoderm and endoderm. The tiny placosoans are similar, but they do not have a permanent digestive chamber. Bilateria. The remaining animals, the great majority comprising some 29 phyla and over 1 million species, form a clade, the Bilateria, which have a bilaterally symmetric body plan. The Bilateria are triploblastic, with 3 well-developed germ layers, and their tissues form distinct organs. The digestive chamber has 2 openings, a mouth and an anus, and there is an internal body cavity, a chylome or pseudocellum. These animals have a head end and a tail end, a back surface and a belly surface, and a left and a right side. Having a front end means that this part of the body encounters stimuli, such as food, favoring cephalization, the development of a head with sense organs and a mouth. Many bilaterians have a combination of circular muscles that constrict the body, making it longer, and an opposing set of longitudinal muscles, that shorten the body. These enable soft-bodied animals with a hydrostatic skeleton to move by peristalsis. They also have a gut that extends through the basically cylindrical body from mouth to anus. Many bilaterian phyla have primary larvae which swim with cilia and have an apical organ containing sensory cells. However, over evolutionary time, descendant species have evolved which have lost one or more of each of these characteristics. For example, adult echinoderms are radially symmetric, while some parasitic worms have extremely simplified body structures. Genetic studies have considerably changed zoologists' understanding of the relationships within the Bilateria. Most appear to belong to 2 major lineages, the Protostomes and the Deuterostomes. The basal-most bilaterians are the Xenochielomorpha. Protostomes and Deuterostomes. Ecdysozoa. Spiralia. History of classification. In the classical era, Aristotle divided animals, based on his own observations, into those with blood and those without. The animals were then arranged on a scale from man down through the live-bearing tetrapods and other groups such as crustaceans down to spontaneously generating creatures like sponges. Aristotle was uncertain whether sponges were animals, which in his system ought to have sensation, appetite, and locomotion, or plants, which did not. He knew that sponges could sense touch, and would contract if about to be pulled off their rocks, but that they were rooted like plants and never moved about. In 1758, Carl Linnaeus created the first hierarchical classification in his Systema Naturae. In his original scheme, the animals were one of 3 kingdoms, divided into the classes of vermes, insecta, pisces, amphibia, aves, and mammalia. Since then the last four have all been subsumed into a single phylum, the Chordata, while his insecta and vermes have been renamed or broken up. The process was begun in 1793 by Jean-Baptiste de Lamarck, who called the vermes une espèce de chaos and split the group into three new phyla: worms, echinoderms, and polyps. By 1809, in his Philosophie zoologique, Lamarck had created 9 phyla apart from vertebrates and mollusks, namely Cirripedes, annelids, crustaceans, arachnids, insects, worms, radiates, polyps, and infusoreans. In his 1817 Le Regni Animal, Georges Cuvier used comparative anatomy to group the animals into 4 embranchements, namely vertebrates, mollusks, articulated animals, and zoophytes. This division into 4 was followed by the embryologist Carl Ernst von Baer in 1828, the zoologist Louis Agassiz in 1857, and the comparative anatomist Richard Owen in 1860. In 1874, Ernst Haeckel divided the animal kingdom into 2 subkingdoms, Metazoa and Protozoa, including a 6th animal phylum, sponges. The Protozoa were later moved to the former kingdom Protista, leaving only the Metazoa as a synonym of Animalia. In human culture. Practical uses. The human population exploits a large number of other animal species for food, both of domesticated livestock species in animal husbandry and, mainly at sea, by hunting wild species. Marine fish of many species are caught commercially for food. A smaller number of species are farmed commercially. Humans and their livestock make up more than 90% of the biomass of all terrestrial vertebrates, and almost as much as all insects combined. Invertebrates including cephalopods, crustaceans, and bivalve or gastropod mollusks are hunted or farmed for food. Chickens, cattle, sheep, pigs, and other animals are raised as livestock for meat across the world. Animal fibers such as wool are used to make textiles, while animal sinews have been used as lashings and bindings, and leather is widely used to make shoes and other items. Animals have been hunted and farmed for their fur to make items such as coats and hats. Dyestuffs including carmine, shellac, and kermes have been made from the bodies of insects. Working animals including cattle and horses have been used for work and transport from the first days of agriculture. Animals such as the fruit fly Drosophila melanogaster serve a major role in science as experimental models. Animals have been used to create vaccines since their discovery in the 18th century. Some medicines such as the cancer drug Yondelis are based on toxins or other molecules of animal origin. People have used hunting dogs to help chase down and retrieve animals, and birds of prey to catch birds and mammals, while tethered cormorants have been used to catch fish. Poison dart frogs have been used to poison the tips of blowpipe darts. A wide variety of animals are kept as pets, from invertebrates such as tarantulas and octopuses, insects including praying mantises, reptiles such as snakes and chameleons, and birds including canaries, parakeets, and parrots, all finding a place. However, the most kept pet species are mammals, namely dogs, cats, and rabbits. There is a tension between the role of animals as companions to humans, and their existence as individuals with rights of their own. A wide variety of terrestrial and aquatic animals are hunted for sport. Symbolic uses. Animals have been the subjects of art from the earliest times, both historical, as in ancient Egypt, and prehistoric, as in the cave paintings at Lascaux. Major animal paintings include Albrecht Dürer's 1515 The Rhinoceros, and George Stubbs's c. 1762 horse portrait Whistle Jacket. Insects, birds, and mammals play roles in literature and film, such as in giant bug movies. Animals including insects and mammals feature in mythology and religion. In both Japan and Europe, a butterfly was seen as the personification of a person's soul, while the scarab beetle was sacred in ancient Egypt. Among the mammals, cattle, deer, horses, lions, bats, bears, and wolves are the subjects of myths and worship. The signs of the Western and Chinese zodiacs are based on animals.